Disney's Hollywood Studios might have some of the best rides Disney-wide, but those epic rides also lead to some rather massive wait times. So how can we maximize our time in this park? Let's turn to Disney Genie Plus and learn how to really get the best bang out of your buck here. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Disney Genie Plus has been part of the My Disney Experience app since 2021, and its main purpose is to provide you with lightning lanes that'll help you skip over the main queues of most rides. Simple enough, but with all the constant changes, morphing, and mending this service through the years, it can still be a tricky premium planning tool to wrap your head around. And when you're in the trenches of Disney's Hollywood Studios with all the best rides, the last thing you want is to be thrown off by the very service that's supposed to be helping you out here. So today we're going to take Disney Genie Plus into Hollywood Studios and show you how exactly you're going to want to use it inside that park. And after today's video, you can get extra lightning lane help with our free Genie Plus cheat sheet download. Just drop us your email at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGeniePlus. We're going to send over your digital copy right away. All right, is it worth it? Yes, that's quite the statement to make at the start of a whole Disney Genie Plus video, but we figure the best ultimate guides are the honest ones. You see, Disney Genie Plus isn't just something you're going to throw your pennies at. It's an investment. Recently, Genie Plus's price ranges have lingered between $20 and $35 per person per day. So a family of 4 who decided to use Genie Plus for Disney's Hollywood Studios for a single day could end up paying between $80 and $140. And if you decided to purchase it for all 4 parks across 4 different days, you're looking at an investment of $320 to $560 just to bypass those lines. Fortunately, you can pick and choose how many days you want to use Genie Plus, which in some situations might mean you don't need to pick it at all. The value of Genie Plus really all depends on 3 critical factors. 1, your party, 2, your park, and 3, the day. On an average day, you won't necessarily need Genie Plus to get through your must-dos, especially if you have a solid park strategy and are planning on using other line-shedding benefits that might be at your disposal, like early theme park entry and extended evening hours. But even on an average crowd level day, Genie Plus is gonna still help you to get a little more downtime to explore the park freely and less time having to stand around in line. On really high crowd level days, like the peak seasons you're gonna encounter during spring break, 4th of July weekend, Thanksgiving week, basically the whole month of December, Genie Plus isn't just nice to have around, it has the potential of saving your trip. Otherwise, you might find yourself having to wait forever and a day just to get on smaller rides like alien swirling saucers. And that gets really frustrating really fast. As far as your park choice is concerned, Genie Plus is a better value in some parks than in others. Disney's Hollywood Studios is definitely one of those parks that'll make this service worth your while. It's got a lot of heavy hitter rides for you to accomplish in one day, and each of these rides all seem to build up really lengthy lines, even on average crowd level days. But overall, the biggest thing you're going to want to gauge before you bite the lightning lane bullet is how patient your group is on any given day. If maybe it's just you and a few of your adult friends and you guys don't really mind standing in line and just shooting the breeze while you wait, then Genie Plus could be a skippable expense. But if you've got 2 or 3 younger kiddos who tend to not have the patience to even sit through a commercial, let alone a 75-minute line, then yeah, Genie Plus is probably a worthy investment. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about when you need to buy this. The early bird gets the worm, or rather in this case, the early bird gets the best lightning lanes. Although Disney's Hollywood Studios opens daily around 8:30 a.m., you can purchase Genie Plus as early as midnight, and you can start booking your first lightning lanes as early as 7 a.m. But keep these things in mind. 1, you can only book 1 lightning lane at a time. You'll be able to book your next one after you've used the one you're currently holding, or after that 120-minute rule downtime passes. More on that in just a second. And don't worry, that's definitely the most confusing thing about Genie Plus, so once you get that down, you're golden. 2, lightning lane times are given to you. You can't choose when you want to visit a certain attraction, so you'll just have to settle for whatever lightning lane time is available when you're making a selection. And 3, not every ride in the park is going to be available to book a lightning lane for through Disney Genie Plus. For Rise of the Resistance, aka Hollywood Studios' star attraction, you'll need to purchase an individual lightning lane that's separate from the Genie Plus lineup of choices. Recently, Rise of the Resistance has been costing guests around $15 to $25 per person per ride through. Whether that's worth it for you or not all goes back to how busy it's going to be in the park. and how patient your group is when it comes to waiting in lines, and how much pre-planning you've done for this trip, because you may very well be able to shave off time waiting in this line just by getting in its queue during the Fantasmic showing or by rope dropping it first thing in the morning. Now don't worry, I've got more to say about Rise of the Resistance later on, but for now, just know that individual lightning lanes work differently than Genie Plus does. Instead of making individual lightning lane purchases at midnight, you'll book your individual lightning lanes and make your purchases at the same time. For guests staying at a Disney-owned hotel or at Walt Disney World's Swan and Dolphin or Shades of Green, individual lightning lanes go live starting at 7 a.m. But for everyone else, individual lightning lanes go live when the park opens, which is usually 8:30 for Hollywood Studios. Also, unlike Genie Plus, you will be able to choose your return time for an individual lightning lane, one that will best fit your schedule. Guess they figure you're paying more, you might as well have more choice. Now, here's something I will say about using Genie Plus in Hollywood Studios that may help you decide if it's really worth it. On multiple occasions, just by getting up and around early and by using all the strategies I'm about to list off today, we've been able to collect all the Genie Plus lightning lanes for every single ride in one day. The Disney website does state that on average you should be able to grab 2 to 3 lightning lanes per day, but we've surpassed that number several times over. You've just got to know how to play the game and use the cheat codes. All right, you've got Genie Plus, you decided it's worth it. Now, here's the key rides to book first. There's a reason why Disney tries to lower your Genie Plus standards and lowball how many lightning lanes you might be able to collect per day. And that's because lightning lanes aren't infinite. Even after you purchase Genie Plus, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to book every ride you want a lightning lane for, especially during Disney's busier seasons, which is why it's time to put our heads together and come up with our game plan. So let's say you're up and at 'em and ready to book your first lightning lane at 7 a.m. Good for you, because those early rises when you're on your vacation is not for the weak. Which lightning lane do you start off with at Hollywood Studios? Okay, there are several rides with lightning lanes available on Genie Plus that you can book in Hollywood Studios. I'm going to go ahead and put them on the screen for you now. Note that these don't cover all the lightning lanes for all the attractions, just for the rides. We'll talk about the lightning lanes for the shows later on. So out of these 8 available rides, which one sells out the fastest? Now this may surprise you, but on average, Slinky Dog Dash tends to run out of lightning lanes first. There are 2 key reasons for that. One, it's a great family-friendly coaster. Rides like Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster can be too much for younger guests or guests who just don't vibe with the high-speed or intense rides. Slinky Dog is one of those attractions that's entertaining for everybody. And 2, the queue for Slinky Dog Dash is, to put it lightly, the worst. It is boring and unbelievably hot to wait in. So if you're gonna pick a line to skip over, you're going to want it to be that one in Hollywood Studios. Now, if you are looking for a ride with more intense thrills to start your day with, and you think good old Slink is going to be too tame for you, then you may want to get a lightning lane for Tower of Terror at the start of your day instead. Plummeting to your doom for breakfast? Absolutely. And after that, it just depends on what your priority rides are. The only other big suggestion I really have for you concerning what order to book those lightning lanes in is that Star Tours and Alien Swirling Saucers tend to have the least busy lines of the bunch, so you may want to wait and book those after you've booked and ridden everything else. Now, you definitely want to be prepared for the breakdowns. Now, I'm not talking about mental breakdowns, though those do happen during family vacation. We've talked about those plenty on this channel. I'm talking about ride breakdowns, because Hollywood Studios has their fair share of those on the daily. Rise of the Resistance, unfortunately, can be the biggest drama queen of them all, because there are so many pieces and parts that have to go exactly right for this multi-experience ride to work. And just one factor has to go askew for the whole ride to go offline. I think one cast member told me there are 27 fail points in Rise of the Resistance. And that can be an even bigger pain to deal with when you spend a lot of money on an individual lightning lane for it. Back when the Lightning Lane services first went live, we purchased an individual Lightning Lane for Rise just to see how it would work. We got a reservation for later on in the day, but as we scanned in for the ride, it shut down temporarily. Now, instead of receiving an automatic refund for our reservation, we got an experience redemption that popped up on our My Disney Experience app instead, which is basically a boarding pass for Rise of the Resistance that's good for any time until the end of the day. So even though our selected time slot had passed, this experience redemption promised us we could still use our individual lightning lane whenever we wanted to once the ride came back online. We went ahead and asked a cast member what would happen if the ride never reopened during the day, and they informed us that we would be refunded for our individual lightning lane if that was the case. But if the ride reopened at any point, whether we rode it or not during that time, no refund would be promised. So though the rules for lightning lanes have changed frequently since 2021, these rules still seem to be set in stone. But here's an interesting hack for you just in case this specific situation happens to you too. The limit for how many individual lightning lanes you can hold per day is 2. So if you were park hopping to say Epcot, you could technically have an individual lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Would it be pricey? Yes, but if you only have a limited time to experience all the parks as is, that expense may be worth it for you. Now, when we were given our experience redemption after Rise of the Resistance went down, we were given the option to make another individual lightning lane for our day, even though we'd already purchased our max number of 2. That's because this experience redemption pass was no longer seen as an individual ride selection in the system. When a ride breaks down and then reopens, it's considered in recovery, giving guests the option to buy passes for another ride. So we were technically able to pay for a third individual lightning lane. Lucky us. Even pricier? Yes. But again, if you're trying to cover as much ground as possible in only a day or 2, it could be an option during these specific circumstances. Whew, okay, breakdowns part 2. Sorry to drag this out, but I can't throw Rise of the Resistance under the bus without pointing fingers at the other rides too, because I know Runaway Railway and Tower of Terror have seen their fair share of breakdowns. But the way Genie Plus handles breakdowns is different here than the way individual lightning lanes handle breakdowns. You see, when we got an experience redemption pass for Rise of the Resistance, that pass was only good to use at Rise of the Resistance when it was back up and running again. But let's say you had a lightning lane selection picked out for Toy Story Mania, and it went kaput before you got a chance to ride. Then you'll receive something called a multi-experience redemption. That's good for other rides as well as Toy Story Mania when it goes back online. Now here's the most important thing to remember. If you haven't scanned into the lightning lane yet, then this multi-experience pass will pop up on your MDE, that's My Disney Experience, automatically. However, if you're already in a ride's lightning lane and are all scanned in when the breakdown happens, then you'll need to go to Guest Relations in order to get the multi-experience pass. You'll only be able to get a multi-experience pass if it's a ride breakdown that's caused you to miss your lightning lane. If you miss your return time because you were running late at a restaurant or on a bus, then that's not going to grant you that automatic experience redemption. That being said, if you do miss your hour-long return window for whatever reason, always let the cast member at the front of the ride know what's going on and why you're running behind. Depending on the circumstances, they may let you go ahead and scan into the lightning lane anyways. Doesn't always happen, not guaranteed, but worth a try. Now, this next tip is probably one of the most important. You're going to learn how to stack those lightning lanes. When we first learned about the infamous 120-minute rule back in 2021, our team was like, I'm sorry, what is this? And why does it sound so complicated? But now here we are just a few years later, and the 120-minute rule has become our greatest weapon of attack when using our lightning lanes, especially in Hollywood studios. To put it as clearly and concisely as possible, if you book a lightning lane with a return time that's hours later than you would have liked, the 120-minute rule promises you that you don't have to wait hours and finally book your next lightning lane. Instead, you can book a new one after a 2-hour cooldown period, whether you've used the lightning lane you booked yet or not. Example time. Let's say you book a 5 p.m. Slinky Dog Dash lightning lane and you booked it at 10 a.m. Right? You press the button at 10 a.m. to book a ride for 5 p.m. You would then get a 120-minute cooldown. So at 12 p.m., 2 hours after pressing the button and making your selection, you can make another lightning lane choice while keeping the Slinky Dog Dash lightning lane. And you know what that means? That means you would technically be holding 2 active lightning lanes in your itinerary at once. Once your 120-minute cooldown has passed, the first lightning lane you booked exists separately from the new lightning lane reservations you make. So Slinky Dog will stick around and you'll have a new lightning lane slot that follows the same rules as when you initially booked. To book another, you'll need to use your new lightning lane or wait through another 2-hour cooldown. But if all you're finding are later lightning lane return times, then you may very well just have an evening filled with back-to-back ride-throughs. After all, the 120-minute rule isn't a one-and-done thing. You just need to wait for that 2-hour cooldown period to happen again to keep on booking more. In the past, we've been able to stack 3 Genie Plus lightning lanes at a single single time, since our first two were booked for later time slots. Just keep stacking and you'd be surprised how much you can accomplish in a single evening. This is especially helpful if you're just flying in to Disney World and you're up at 6 a.m. and you're at the airport and you've got Genie Plus and you know you're going to go to Hollywood Studios as soon as you get to Disney World, then you can go ahead and start booking your lightning lanes from the airport in like Vancouver or wherever you are. Keep stacking them up, and then when you walk into Hollywood Studios at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whenever, then you get to ride all those rides you've stacked up. Kind of cool. Now, remember when I told you that you take the lightning lane Disney Genie Plus gives you and you don't throw a fit? That's true, but you actually can modify lightning lanes if you need to. So when Genie Plus was first introduced, you had to straight up cancel lightning lanes if you decided you wanted to switch one out for a different ride or a better time slot that you might have stumbled upon while browsing through your options. And that was real lame, because if you canceled a lightning lane, your 120-minute cooldown period would start over, which was anything but cool. But we were finally given a sense of justice when Disney changed that feature. Now you can easily modify your lightning lane selections if need be. These modifications also include changing specific members in your group too, if someone decides they don't or do want to ride something. So if you picked up a lightning lane for Smuggler's Run and the time you were given happened to clash with your 50s Primetime Cafe Advanced Dining reservation, then you could modify your plans later on if you found a different Smuggler's Run return time that worked better for your group. That being said, if you ever have to choose between making it on time for your ADR versus your lightning lane, always choose your dining reservation. While cast members at the rides will more than likely have an easier time still letting you into the lightning lane entrance even after your lightning lane time has passed, restaurant reservations run on a much stricter schedule, and if you miss your dining reservation, you'll be charged a no-show fee, which is usually $10 per person. Not to mention, you have an hour-long window to make it to your lightning lane on time, and an advanced dining reservation only gives you about a 15-minute grace period before the restaurant will more than likely have to give up your table to another group. One final note about modifications. Individual lightning lanes cannot be modified or refunded unless the ride you booked breaks down and never goes back online. Then you'll have to go to guest relations to get your money back. So triple check and make sure that you choose the right return time when you book your individual lightning lane. But you can modify regular lightning lanes as much as you need to. Next big tip to get the best bang for your buck out of Genie Plus in Hollywood Studios, ignore these lightning lanes. So while pretty much all the Hollywood Studios lightning lanes for the parks rides can be beneficial to you, there are some lightning lanes for different attractions that you're not going to want to waste your time on. Here's the list of the attractions and shows you can get lightning lanes for, on top of the ride options we already listed off earlier. Hollywood Studios is a very show-heavy park, so along with those major rides, you can take the time to see some live performances or mingle with a favorite character or two. However, here's the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You're not going to want to waste a lightning lane on these. For shows like Indiana Jones and Frozen and Beauty and the Beast and Disney Junior, you can normally line up for those performances about 10 to 15 minutes before they start letting people in and still get a pretty good view of things. Honestly, I've walked into Indy's covered theater only a few minutes before the show started and still got a pretty decent view off to the side because that theater is huge and seats a whole lot of people. And for Muppet Vision, well, as great as that show is, if you ever see a wait time that's over 10 minutes long, then you know something's seriously wrong or the park is seriously that busy. Because Muppets on a normal crowd level day is usually a walk-on experience. But don't underestimate it by any means. It's still an adorable show and it deserves its due recognition. The only lightning lane out of this bunch that I'd say might be worthwhile is the Olaf meet and greet. But even then, if you want to make sure you get all those rides done and out of the way first, I'd wait on our Frozen friend there for a bit. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can hold up to 2 individual lightning lanes in a single day, meaning you can have an individual lightning lane for Hollywood Studios and another for a different park, just as long as you've got a Park Hopper add-on already purchased. But it's not just individual lightning lanes you can hop with. You can hop between parks and use Genie Plus too. However, there are 2 things you got to be aware of when it comes to using Genie Plus between parks. First, if you've purchased both a Park Hopper and Disney Genie Plus, you must wait to book a lightning lane return time in your second park of the day until the clock reaches 2 p.m. or later for all guests, since 2 p.m. is the official park hopping time per the release of this video. Okay, that wording's confusing. Time for another hypothetical scenario. Let's say you purchased a Park Hopper ticket in Disney Genie Plus. You decide to spend the first part of your day in Hollywood Studios and want to hop to Epcot later and book a lightning lane for Remy's Ratatouille adventure. In this instance, you'll have to wait until all of Remy's lightning lanes prior to 2 p.m. have been spoken for by guests who are currently in Epcot that morning, aka the folks who made their park pass reservation at Epcot. Be aware that essentially this means you're going to have to keep an eye on those Disney Genie Plus times for your second park as well as for your current park, which could be more hassle than it's worth at times, because you're going to want to see when Remy's all booked up till 2 o'clock and you can start booking yours. Now, second, consider the travel time in between parks when you're booking park hoppers and Genie Plus. I keep using Hollywood Studios and Epcot as an example because they're the easiest to jump between thanks to the Skyliner. However, traveling over to Magic Kingdom and Disney's Animal Kingdom will take a chunk out of your afternoon to get from one park to the next. So if you're planning on leaving Hollywood Studios at 2 p.m. on the dot to make it over to Animal Kingdom, getting a 2 p.m. return time for like Navi River Journey may not be the best idea. Just consider which add-ons will really be the most beneficial for you and your group, because if having to check multiple parks for multiple lightning lanes is going to be stressful, you might want to ditch one or the other, or you may want to ditch both, your call. But I would say if you're making a lightning lane in another park that's going to take a while to travel to, meaning you're going to have to wait for a bus, you're going to have to drive over, which can take 20 to 30 minutes, and then you're going to have to walk to the actual ride in your second park, that could easily take an hour, so give yourself an hour travel time before you book a lightning lane in that second park. And don't forget to take advantage of the extra offerings. We're not done with all the Genie Plus fun yet. Aside from lightning lanes, there are several other fun add-ons you can take advantage of with each Genie Plus purchase. You want to get the biggest bang for your buck, right? So there are augmented reality photo lenses, themed audio tours, and you'll also get to keep all the in-ride PhotoPass photos you take around the park that day. For Hollywood Studios, that includes Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, and Slinky Dog Dash. Now here's my last major hack for you. Even if your group doesn't really care about the lightning lanes, but they do care about getting the in-ride photos, then you'll just need to purchase one Genie Plus for your group. Normally, individual PhotoPass pictures will cost you around $19 for a set of 2 4x6 prints. And if you decide to pre-purchase all the PhotoPass pictures for your trip, including the ones you take outside the rides, you're looking at a whopping $169 to $199 investment right there for Memory Maker. So instead of paying for 3 individual on-ride photos for your Hollywood Studios day, which will end up costing you around $60, you could just pay $20 to $35 for one Genie Plus and also receive the audio tours and augmented reality photo lenses to share with your group. And I guess that one person could technically use the lightning lanes too if they wanted to, but it may cause some hurt feelings if only one group member gets to skip the lines and no one else gets to. Just something to consider. So one last important note before we wrap up here, because Disney did make a really big yet slightly vague announcement concerning the future of Disney Genie Plus. If you missed the days of selecting those old Fast Pass Plus reservations ahead of your trip, Disney recently stated they're working on ways guests may do this for visits in 2024. For Genie Plus, Disney's goal with this is to give you the opportunity to spend less time planning in the park and more time enjoying your visit with friends and family. Now, that's a direct quote. So we don't know what these changes will look like just yet, but we do know that they're coming. So make sure to keep checking back here for the latest Genie Plus news and updates as we continue to learn more about what Disney has in store. Also, now is a good time to go ahead and drop us your email at disneyfoodblog.com/DisneyGeniePlus, and we can get you the free cheat sheet from this video, because I imagine your head might still be swimming a little bit. After all, you got a whole lot of planning to do now, and we want to help you feel confident as you take the reins. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.